Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Welcome to our 2022 100 millimeter men's kind of all mountain ski comparison. We break this down by width, and we kind of break it down by segment too. We usually put either like all mountain or free ride. This category in general, this is basically exactly where we as a company make the cutoff between all mountain and free ride.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, even though some of these skis are over 100 millimeters underfoot, they're more all mountain vibes here than free ride.
And there's a big difference in construction and shaping within this category. That,
huge range.
It's pretty fun to talk about. So
yeah, this is probably my favorite category to talk about. And we organized them in a new way this year. We went softest to stiffest flex pattern.
In a totally subjective and non-scientific method of just hand flexing the skis.
Bob and I just stood here for a while and hand flexed things and moved them around.
Yeah.
So we may have gotten something not exactly right, but in our best interpretation, this is the organization from softest to stiffest.
And this, I would say the mid 10
are the same.
Yeah, the first and the last are easy, and it just gets, it definitely got more difficult in the middle.
Feel a little gray and a little vague in there.
That was part of the fun.
Exactly. So let's get right into it. This ski was really easy to put over on the left side of the wall. This is the Line Blend. Really pretty unique ski compared to most of the things on this wall. We'll look at a couple skis that compare to it more closely, but yeah, way more of a kind of park jibby freestyle influence in this ski compared to the vast majority of the skis we're going to talk about. Good friend of mine, Will Wesson, he's been a long-time line skier. I'm going to throw in some footage of him on last year's graphic of this ski, but same carryover ski. He is a huge influence in the design of this ski. He basically was the one that convinced Line to redesign it. The overall theme is the same. They've just kind of tweaked it in a couple small ways. So, like we said, we're going softest to stiffest flex pattern. This thing is one of the softest skis you'll ever flex.
I don't know how they make it that soft.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's 100% by design.
Yeah.
And then the weight comes in at just under 1,900 grams, 1,885, we'll say. This is a 185 centimeter length, so pretty light for a pretty long ski.
Yep.
Maple macro block wood core in this ski. Line uses that wood core in a ton of their skis. And then they just kind of achieve the flex pattern by milling it to the thickness that they want. And when you have it in your hand, you can really see how it all works. There's more of a vertical sidewall underfoot. And then up here in the tip, it's thin cap construction, which gives you that just super, super soft flex pattern. This ski is not designed to be a powerful charger. This thing is designed to be a finessed jibbing ski.
Yeah.
They designed this tip specifically in this kind of blunted shape, so you can do things like nose blocks or tip stands. That's something that Will is exceptionally good at. It's also really good at presses and butters and smears and stuff like that. If you're choosing this ski as a park ski, probably not the best if you're the type of skier that's out there hitting massive jump lines. You want something a little stiffer. But for the vast majority of park skiers out there, this is a great option because you don't have to ski super aggressively and you can have a really good time. Very forgiving feel. Definitely something that you can ski outside of the park too. To me, its highlighting characteristic is how it performs inside of a terrain park or in an urban environment or something like that.
Yeah, and I like how they put this in the 100 millimeter width.
Yeah.
Totally. Any narrower with this flex, and then
it would just be wiggly.
There's just not enough material.
Yep.
So one of my favorite things to do with this is just to bounce it back and forth, and highest wiggle factor of any ski, I would say, in our building here. And kind of the ski equivalent to, I would say, flatland freestyle bike riding.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're using it for.
Totally.
And just a ton of fun.
Yep, and just to look at the rocker camber profile before we put it away, it is going to be more of a symmetrical profile than we're going to see as we go forward on this wall. So quite a lot of tail rocker back here, really something that's designed to, you know, if you're not going on center, they put 2 lines on this ski for mount point. If you're not going on center, the next back is right there, which is still pretty darn center.
Yeah.
So way more of a symmetrical shape than most of the skis we're going to talk about. But yeah, ton of fun to ski. I would love to own a pair of blends for playful park days.
And you introduced me to the term swerve skiing, which I was trying to describe, but didn't have a word for it. So I think that worked really well for me to kind of help quantify what that ski is for.
Ski's all about.
The next up on the noodly side, and this is, I would say, kind of a jump. This new M-Free 99 from Dynastar here, definitely, you know, on the softer side, but we do see a significant jump in the responsiveness over that blend. This is a new model. This is the narrower version of the M-Free 108 that came out last year. This is taking the place in the spot of the Menace 98 and kind of a Dynastar equivalent to that Rossignol Holyshred that we can get to in a second. But you know, they really carry forward that rocker profile from the 108 into this 99. We're at 17 grams on the scale here in the 179, so a little bit heavier as well. And a lot of that has to do with the construction. So we have that poplar in the middle of the wood core, and then this polyurethane, the PU material on the outside. So they use this hybrid wood core. Makes this thing pretty darn stable for how flexible it is. It does add that little bit of weight, but I think that skiers that are looking for that next level of performance will kind of like that about it.
Yep.
And that rocker profile is really what makes this ski stand out. We do still have that nice positive camber underfoot, but when I decamber it, you can look, the tail rocker specifically, you know, very, very gratuitous.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that rocker, and then same thing in the tip as well. And then corresponding taper shape to match. So this is just a great soft snow ski that has, you know, it has that freestyle and freeride influence into it. You know, very drifty in the soft snow, but thanks to that construction, does handle, you know, being in a carved turn pretty well. So I think that a lot of skiers that are in this width range but want something more playful are really going to find a lot to like about this ski. It's just a ton of fun.
Yeah, super, super fun. And I, like you were just saying, I was actually quite impressed by how it carves.
Yep.
I think it helps that I'm a lighter weight skier.
Yep.
But I always really like how skis like this carve. The next couple kind of fall into the same category. There's just something about like a nice wide twin tip that has some, you know, a little bit of stability to it. It's really fun to just tip it up on edge and you get this big trenching carving turn, which is really fun.
Right.
And then just super, super agile in the trees and something that you could ski park on too.
Yeah.
I got lucky because they had to remount a pair for me to ski, which meant they moved the heel piece up a ton. So I got to ski it pretty centered. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Something that I would certainly consider skiing park on too.
Yeah, definitely. And a nice, you know, update from that Menace 98.
Totally.
Put this more on the freeride side versus that Menace, which was a little bit more twin-tipped and freestyle oriented.
This is a better complement to its counterpart over there, the M-Pro 99, than the Menace was.
Yep.
You know, not that the Menace was very similar to that, but it was more similar to that than this. Next up is the Black Crow's Camox. A lot of what we kind of just described about the M-Free 99 carries over to this Camox too. It crosses over really nicely between skiing trees, skiing softer snow, skiing any off-piste terrain, and then also a pretty stable, strong feel on groomers. I had a blast. We took this out maybe beginning of last year. I think it was 2 years ago. I can't remember, but we took this thing out and I was lucky enough to spend almost a full day on it in a variety of different terrain, and yeah, just had a blast on it. Another really good example of how good just a simple construction ski is, just a poplar wood core in this ski, and then they kind of use different construction methods to kind of tweak how they want the ski to perform. So vertical sidewall underfoot here, and then you can see it tapering into that cap construction. So that gives you, more torsional stiffness underfoot, more stability underfoot. Tips and tails are going to be a little bit looser. Compared to a couple of the skis that we've looked at before, I do feel like this has a little bit more directional performance to it, which we'll look at in just a second. 1,850 grams in this 180.4.
Very, very precise.
Thank you, Black Rose. So certainly on the lighter side of the spectrum, there's a couple skis on this wall that are lighter, but this is certainly on the lighter side of the spectrum. And then just crazy high camber height in this ski. This is something that you see in the Captus too, the narrower twin tip that Black Rose makes. But you don't get like a crazy amount of stiffness in this ski, so having that camber height really helps. And then you do get some nice tip and tail rocker as well. Not as pronounced, not as much splay as we saw in the M-Free, but there's still a good amount of it, tip and tail rocker. So yeah, very similar conversation to how we were just describing the M-Free 99. Crosses over really nicely between making carving turns on groomers and then hopping into the trees and making some quick playful turns. Really nice even flex pattern in this ski. Some of these skis feel like they have little like this Stormrider. When we get here, the tip is noticeably softer than the rest of this ski. This, even though they kind of go vertical sidewall to cap, it does feel like it's a nice just even flex pattern. Bob, I know you've had some good time on these skis as well.
Yeah, no, I love the energy. That they're able to create without metal, without carbon. Just putting the camber in there, building it into the construction of the ski. That, like for me here at Stowe, is a no-brainer for a lot of skiers that spend equal amounts of time exploring the great woods we have, as well as just cruising the groomers.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that ski on groomed terrain.
Yeah, extremely well-rounded. A couple ski patrollers here at Stowe use these and love them. Sam Purnell has one that has a strong fondness for this ski. And yeah, really, really fun. Just a quick note on Black Rose in general, we could have put the Justice in this comparison. We had the Justice in this comparison last year, and we've talked about the Orb and the Divus so far. We will talk about the Serpo. All of those skis share very similar construction to the Justice, so I thought we'd throw this one up on the wall. If you have any questions about how the Justice compares to skis up here, certainly let us know, because that's a great ski too.
Yeah, certainly deserving of being in this comparison.
Yep, absolutely.
And then kind of piggybacking on that Menace 98 discussion that we just had, this was kind of a very similar ski, this Rossignol BLACKOPS Holyshred, so 98 millimeters underfoot, just like that Menace was, built with that wood core. There is a metal plate underfoot. We get diagonal fiber in here as well, so we are seeing a little bit more materials being put into a ski. It still has that nice even flex. I mean, this and that Camox, I think we're where we started to say, this might not be as kind of cut and dry as we thought it was going to be. But again, that even flex in this ski, really, really fun twin tip, 1960 on the scale. So getting up towards that 2,000 gram threshold. This is the 182. Full sidewall. This is a real ski. A lot of people would just look at this and say, oh, that's a twin tip, that's a park ski, but it's just so much more. Like that Camox as well, we see that nice positive camber underfoot, building that energy into the ski, and then pretty nice, easy, gentle rocker profile in the tail, leading to that moderate splay. Again, like the Camox, having that in the back end of your turn is very helpful for the woods. We see a lot of people would really enjoy these kind of wider twin tips on the woods around here. And then that, it's not terribly dramatic. I would say it's pretty average for what this ski is. and then just a nice rounded overall taper shape. So you're going to get very smooth turns out of this, and it's not just limited to park, pipe, woods.
No, not at all.
You know, you put this thing up on edge on groomers, and you're going to have a lot of fun. The energy out of it's pretty incredible. You know, for not having that full metal laminate, just having it underfoot, you get that grip, you get that performance, that torsional stiffness, but you're also not being overpowered or overburdened by a ski. So it's just that really nice, well-rounded, you know, any ski that has this nice round shape, I always just think, oh, this just does it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. I've always been impressed by the stability and vibration damping of these skis. It's among among twin tips. This is one of the strongest or quietest skis that you'll find.
Yeah.
Especially with skis that don't use like 2 sheets of metal.
Right.
You know, like sometimes the Enforcer 104 will come up in conversation surrounding these skis, and maybe it's not quite like that level of stability, but it's lighter. It's a little quicker, you know, quicker edge to edge, stuff like that. I think it's better as an all mountain ski than a park ski. And when you look at the twin tip shape, I think some people, like you were saying, you want to, in your mind, you put it into this like park ski category, but it's so much more than that. It's really impressive ski. We went to Mad River Glen, and I got to watch Austin just rip around on this ski at his home mountain, and it was, you know, that was a really good demonstration of how good it is as a versatile all-mountain ski.
Yeah, and we were saying that he is not a gentle skier.
Not at all.
And really puts these things, I would say, to their physical limitations.
Right. But, you know, for a pretty big, strong skier, this is supportive and still playful.
Yep.
So it's got that cool mix.
Comes in a 192 as well, which is I'm always
rare.
A fan of.
Rare in the twin tip world, especially.
You have to get a real ski in that length.
Yep. Next ski on the wall, and kind of funny that it's the first non-twin tip.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, going softest to stiffest.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the first non-twin tip on the wall. This is the ZX 100 from Kastle. Really, really fun ski. I was pretty excited when I found out that they were making this ski. The ZX 108 was introduced, last year?
Yeah.
And this ski is essentially just a narrower version of that ski, even to the point where it basically shares the same exact rocker profile.
Which is rare when you're going down like 10 millimeters in a width.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bob and I were chatting before we started filming, and we both really think of this as a narrow directional powder ski.
Yeah.
And that comes through in its performance as well, you know, especially if you compare it to a ski like the MX98 down there. This is way different.
Yes.
But yeah, I was psyched when this came out, or when they announced it rather. They brought this ski to us in like mid-December last year, so we got a look at it really early in the season, and it was a lot of fun to ski. Pretty simple build in here. It's kind of a macro block combination of different types of wood. No metal in this ski's construction, which is different than a lot of Kastle skis. And yeah, one of the softer flex patterns on the wall. We are getting to a point where you're getting a little bit more kickback in the flex pattern of the skis, a little bit more energy, which makes sense. And then, you know, you'll really see it evolve into a stiffer pattern over there. Just about 2,000 grams exactly in this ski. We're kind of tipping over 2,000 grams a little bit, but right around 2,000 grams. And just really fun.
Yes.
You know, I found this ski to be extremely quick. We skied a lot of groomers on it, but you can learn a lot about a ski based on how it performs on a groomer. Very easy to release the tail edge, but it's not just totally loose. You know, there's some precision to it too. You know, it certainly feels like a Kastle.
Yeah.
Like we talk about that a lot, but Kastle skis kind of come along with this premium feel, and when we first got to test this ski, I was curious whether it would have that Kastle feel, and I think it does.
Yeah.
It is more precise than any of the skis we've looked at so far. It's more precise than the next 3 skis we're going to look at. It is still a very precise ski. It's very agile, really good for someone with strong technical ability. you know, you're a good technical skier and you spend a lot of time in trees, in technical terrain, in, you know, chutes, in challenging situations. Like if I had to ski the steepest, narrowest thing at Stowe, and I had to choose a ski on this wall, it might be this one.
Yep.
Because it's supportive, but it's also quick and extremely agile.
Yeah, and we can take a look at the tail rocker or tip rocker as well. And I had an interesting experience on that test day going from the FX96 Ti to this.
Yeah,
and
right.
thinking, wow, this is
I think I did the same exact
significantly
thing.
different.
Yeah.
And just kind of the agility and the quickness of this, I would say, is more my style of skiing. You know, where you're not relying on that top end stability, but you know, just having the energy, the snap, the pop, like
quick short turns.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And we do see that pretty long, big gap there, that big splay in between the tips and tails. Sorry, just the tips there. And then not a ton in the tails. You know, there is that little bit of kick up at the end there, but not like that long rocker of the M-Free 99.
No, it's a true directional ski.
And with some good camber underfoot, and that's how you get that. That's how you get that snap.
And it did carve well too. You know, I thought we haven't even talked about that at all. But yeah, it's not just the wiggly tree ski. You can lay over some carves on it too. You're just not getting the edge grip or the high speed performance of an MX.
Right. You can't stand on that like you can stand on this.
No, but it's still. I had a perfectly good time carving turns on it, as well as making short skiddy turns and stuff like that.
And probably the majority of skiers out there will have that same experience.
Right.
Versus this.
It's not like you're going to buy it and never carve.
Right. Just happens.
Maybe you will, but probably not.
This is another one that has a really interesting new kind of rocker profile shape to it. More in line with that M-Free 99 than that Kastle ZX 100.
Yeah, very similar shape.
Yep. So this is a redo here. This is the Salomon QST 98. You know, taking over that QST 99 spot. There are a couple of changes. You know, it still is that same wider free ridey ski in the QST line.
If anything, it's even more free ridey now.
Yeah, and I think that they did this. This has the same build and shape as the QST Blank, the wider version, the 112, and it definitely has more interesting components to it, I think, than the outgoing 99. Just over 2,000 grams, about 2020 here in this 183. What they've done is they've shortened the turn radius, so they've definitely dropped that taper. That taper shape down.
Pretty drastically.
Yeah, both in the tips and the tails. Let's see if I can get that tip to tail. So a very similar taper shape, you know, both front and back in this ski. And that ended up dropping this turn radius down. So in the 183, it's 17 meters. So pretty short. And that really makes for nice, clean, round turns. When we look at this rocker profile, that'll come across as well as being pretty significant, and you'll see why. Ton of tail rocker. You know, you did some switch skiing on this.
I did. Yeah, moved the demo binding up a little bit. And I thought it was something that had to be tested because the shape was so similar to the M-Free, and I did it on the M-Free, and I was like, I gotta do it on this too. Yeah,
and it's just, and that's the same in the tip as well, just pretty darn long. In that rocker profile, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't carve. I think that was one of my most surprising experiences on this was how well it held an edge and how much energy you got out of it.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. You know,
like half the ski's rocker.
No, you expect this thing to be too floppy, you know, and not hold.
Right.
But it does. And a lot of that has to do with the build. I mean, they're using their CFX material in the tips and the tails here. They do have this little boost of sidewall underfoot. So there are construction techniques that add to the on-trail acumen of this ski. And it really just makes a lot of sense. You know, I like that QST 99, but I love this 98.
Yeah.
You know, I think this is as big of an upgrade within a model range as we've seen.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just good, you know, great for Salomon kind of recognizing that and also distancing it from the Stance line here. So, you know,
I was going to say distancing it from everything.
yeah, certainly a unique experience on skis, and we're starting to see some traction on this, you know, through our comments and our correspondence with customers, and you know, I think that's only gonna go up. But they're definitely kind of making this the more free ride version of, you know, distancing from this Stance 102 or the 96, kind of depending on how you want to look at it. But by adding in that extra rocker and making it more tapered, brings this ski to a different level.
Yeah, like really good powder ski.
Yeah.
Like really good.
Really good.
You know, we were in the Notch. You were with us that day with Marcus.
Yeah.
The three of us were on the Blank. We were specifically out there filming for the Blank review. If you guys have seen the Blank review, it was a really good day.
Yeah.
And Mike Aker, our Salomon rep, he kind of tagged along, and he was on a pair of these, and like he did great.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep, stayed right on top of a bunch of fresh snow.
Exactly, he was having a blast.
Yep.
And when we got like lower on the mountain and things weren't as fresh and light, if anything, these were better.
Yeah.
So yeah, just a really good ski. I had a blast testing them, and yeah, one of those skis that just it surpasses your expectations. You know, you look at the shape and like you were saying, you think it's just going to be a noodle.
Yeah.
But it's an impressive ski with that shape.
And I think that we both found to size up on it.
Yes,
if you're in
definitely.
between, that's the 183. It
Which
also
is
comes
100% my length.
Yep, that's you. And then there's a 189 as well, which is me.
Yeah.
And even that 189, I was like, well, this is perfect.
Yeah, right. It's not too demanding
Nope.
at all.
Nope.
I skied the 176 and it felt short.
Yeah. And when I skied that 183, I had a similar
Yeah.
experience.
Boy, talk about traction in comments and correspondence. We maybe get more comments and questions about this ski than anything else, period.
Yeah.
This is the Atomic Ben Chetler 100, one of Chris Ben Chetler's signature skis, the other being the Ben Chetler 120. This thing is just very, very well-rounded, extremely versatile for being a pretty simple ski.
Yeah.
Like, every time I get a question about the Ben Chetler, it feels like the answer is yes.
Yes, get it.
Like, no matter what the application is, you know, people sometimes will say, like, I'm thinking about putting a shift binding on it and touring a little bit. And I'm like, yep, that'll work great. I'm thinking about skiing a little bit of a park on it. Yep, that'll work great. It's maybe going to be my East Coast powder ski. Like, yep, that's... It just really, it checks a lot of different boxes for a lot of different style skiers, which I think is really cool. 1,700 and call it 50 grams. Pretty simple construction in this ski, just a wood core, no additive materials. You know, we talk about this a lot, but when you have a simple build like that, it's nice to have a lot of camber. And this ski has a lot of camber. That's something that we talk about a lot in this ski's performance. That camber is really important. Gives it a lot of energy, more to push against than if there wasn't that much camber in it. Of course, we do get a good amount of tip rocker as well. Not quite as much tail rocker, but the tip rocker is pretty long. So it's kind of one of those things where like there's obvious soft snow influence in this ski's design. The tail is really more of just a twin tip than tail rocker.
And that's an interesting design. So they're not rockering it really before either the horizon tech and the tails or that where the splay starts. So it's really has good edge grip through the tail.
Exactly.
And they kind of have to do that given the flex of the ski. So it is a softer flexing ski.
Yep, softer flex, but some nice pushback to it.
So if they rockered it like they rockered the QST 98 or the M-Free, this would have a totally different feel to it.
Yeah, no, you get a little bit more feedback from the ski, especially from the tail of the ski. So, like we were saying, like it checks so many different boxes for so many different style skiers. Like I know guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s who love this ski. I know guys that are teenagers that love this ski.
And it does come in that shorter length, so it does help increase that range.
Something that I always think is cool to point out on this ski is there is 11 centimeters of recommended mount points, which
I think that's overkill.
It's got to be like 4 or 5 centimeters more than any other ski, but it's a good indication of how many different things this can be. You know, put it right there on +6, and you've got a very well balanced park ski.
Right.
You know, if you're choosing this as an all mountain / park ski, there you go. You're full center. Go all the way back there to -4, and that's where you're talking like East Coast powder ski for a directional skier, and it does both of those things really, really well. So great ski. If you're only gonna have one pair of skis in your quiver, you want it to be able to do a little bit of everything. The Chetler 100 is a great choice. A lot of the skis that we talked about so far are too, but I think that's especially true about these. You own a pair, Bob.
Yeah, I picked up a pair at the end of the season last year as my utility ski. My poor Soul Rider 87s finally succumbed to years of solid use, and this has always been on my list. I got the 188 and couldn't be happier, you know, skiing with the kids, skiing in the woods around here. I mean, probably one of the best tree skis I've been on.
Yep.
You know, even compared to that Soul Rider 87, the fact that the tips and tails stay on top of the snow, whereas that Soul Rider had a little bit more of that longer camber, you know, wasn't as much of a floater. This one is super smooth.
Yep.
Even wider, you know, 13 millimeters wider underfoot. It's as agile. So really interesting.
Light. I think that lightweight really, really helps.
Yeah, I can put those things anywhere around here. You know, it doesn't matter how tight the trees are.
Yeah, no, it's a great ski. Next ski here is the Declivity 102, and it kind of feels like we're making a move here from one category to another, so to speak.
Yeah, they're putting their metal in here. Articulated Titanal banding in this ski. So 2 sheets of metal. This top sheet has these cutouts here. And this kind of feels funny because we had the 82 Ti in our mid-80s comparison. Yeah. So, you know, broken record kind of with these skis within the same category. But, you know, they remove slits of this metal and fill it with an elastomer. It allows for the ski to bend a little bit better without giving up stiffness or energy.
Yeah.
So you can access more of the torsional flex of the ski, especially, you know, in a carved turn. And it's amazing how that technology works equally as well in an 82 as it does in this 102.
Yep.
Just a really nice blend of wood core, get that nice stiffness. Again, we're seeing that good pushback now. Just under 2,000 grams. What's this, the 180? And, you know, if you're looking for that wider ski, we get a ton of comparisons. This, you know, Enforcer 100, you know, Stance 102.
Mantra 102 even comes up in that conversation a lot.
Yeah, we get a lot of, you know, compare this to that. Yeah, and, you know, one of the big key differences I say on this one is just the energy that you're getting out of the tail.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of this bump out in the tail, you know, that early taper, and then the widest part's right here. Just having that little bump out there, I found gave this thing just a nice little pop at the end of the turn. We do see that camber underfoot, pretty long, dramatic tail tip rocker there.
Yep.
So a good floater. You know, a little bit spoony in the tip, more so than I would say this Enforcer. You know, more similarly shaped to that Stance, I would say.
Yep. Yeah, great ski, and like you were saying, you know, a lot of feel like a broken record going from the 82 to this 102 and talking about its construction. Way more rocker in this ski.
Yes.
That's true in the Declivity line. You know, as you go up in width, they get more rocker. And it really shows in this ski's performance. Like, to me, the 82 and the 92 have very similar characteristics. But then when you bump up to this 102, it's getting a little looser, a little surfier, depending on how you ski it. I think, yeah, what you were saying about the tail is 100% true. You know, if you're on a higher edge angle, you get some nice responsiveness out of the tail. But if you keep the ski flat, it can be pretty surfy, smeary. A recent UVM graduate who worked for us last season and has since moved on to greener pastures, I guess.
No such thing.
Something like that. But he chose this ski for himself, and I thought it was such a good match for him as a skier.
Yeah.
Younger guy, he's got a little bit of a terrain park background, but doesn't really ski much park anymore. He's just kind of got that little bit of playfulness to his skiing style, but still a very strong skier. You know, he's still got some like race style in his skiing and generates high edge angles sometimes. So it was cool to see him rip carving turns on this ski and then like do some slashes and crazy young people stuff.
Young feet, can't do that.
But yeah, no, super fun skis. I think Armada did a fantastic job with the Declivity line in general, which I think we have said that plenty of times now, that these are good skis.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes more, say, traditionalist skiers will just overlook Armada because of the brand's heritage, but I think these Declivity skis and now the women's Reliance skis, they're probably the best skis at gaining the attention of traditional skiers.
Yeah.
They're really good.
I think it's interesting to note too, just the physical distance on our wall from these comparisons, the Mantra 102 and the Enforcer 100 to the Armada. So in a very simplistic way, the way that we've set this up, you could say, well, that's lighter and softer than these two.
Right, but still metal.
Yes.
You know, so say you've decided that you want to ski with metal, you're getting more playfulness out of this, and which, you know, kind of corresponds to the brand names too, which is cool. Next ski is the Stockli Stormrider 102, the K2 wanted to come along with it, but not yet K2. Thinking back on last ski season, I think I made my favorite 4 turns on this ski. If I had to pick out my best or favorite turns of the year, I'm pretty sure they were on this ski. This is the Stormrider 102 from Stockli. It is now the widest ski that they make, which I think makes sense for Stockli. They're known more for precision, edge-to-edge quickness, and carving prowess, not necessarily big rockered powder skis or anything like that. 100% a directional ski. We'll look at the shape in just a little bit. Tech Pro on this ski. So we get 2 sheets of metal, one of which is the top sheet of the ski. And that top sheet's a little thicker than on some of the skis that use Tech. That's allowing them to keep the weight down right in the middle range of 1,800, maybe higher range of 1,800 grams, 1,880 grams or so, but relatively lightweight for a ski that's using 2 sheets of metal. The flex pattern of this ski, I referred to it earlier, is not uniform from tip to tail. And I think that's really important for its performance. So pretty stiff down here in the mid body of the ski and through the tail, but up here in the tip, you've got a pretty supple flex pattern to the tip of the ski. Now, what I really, really liked about it is how that flex in the tip helps you enter a carving turn, and like a really deep carving turn. Talk about getting a high edge angle. If we were in a high edge angle competition and I had to pick a ski on this wall to achieve the highest edge angle, I would choose these 100%. They just absolutely rip these deep trenched carving turns. So much fun. Because it's on the lighter side, because it's not the stiffest ski in the world, it's pretty versatile too. Yeah. You know, it's not like loose like the QST 98 or like the M-Free 99. You know, there's really not much tail rocker to it at all. So you don't get like that drifty, smeary feel, but there's really not much camber either. Yeah. So that's kind of, you know, it's a little bit of a give and take thing there where you take away the tail rocker, but you take away some camber height too, and you do have a ski that's allowing you to release the tail edge, allowing you to make that kind of pivot smear turn. But to me, the highlight of the Stormrider 102 is just how it rips carving turns, and it would do that through anything.
Yeah.
So, like, say you live out west, you know, we often reference like Breckenridge and places like that. If you like making big sweeping carving turns through like choppy, ungroomed snow conditions, it doesn't get much better than this. There's a few other skis we're going to talk about that do it really well too, but Stormrider 102 is just really good.
Yeah, and I talk about the range a lot with these. So the ability for a skier like yourself or me to be able to access the full, the full spectrum of this performance. It is not just designated to us as well. When you look at something like this Bonafide 97, and that really, appeals to that top end, we get the mid-range and kind of that lower mid-range of skier that's looking for their wider powder ski, their resort powder ski. You don't have to be a total expert to access all of the performance.
No, which I think is something that carries through most of Stockli's skis. We've had that conversation before. They do have some that I wouldn't put an intermediate on, like the Laser WRT-ST. That's pretty demanding ski. But yeah, a lot of their skis, they have a very high performance ceiling, but they're approachable too.
Yeah. And I think that we'll talk about the price, to go along with that, where that's one of the things that justifies the price, is not just the precision, the quality, the engineering, but the range, that you can ski that in such a variety of speeds, conditions, and terrain. That makes that thing worth it.
And the rubber dust.
We love the rubber dust.
Yeah, Stockli uses rubber dust in their ski construction. Every piece of the ski is coated with rubber dust before it's built.
Yep.
So that's what you're paying for.
Yeah, it's expensive dust. Next up, we got this K2 Mindbender 99 Ti. Whereas we've been hovering kind of just south of 2,000 grams, this is going to be the one to tip that scale. Definitely at 2,090 grams per ski here. This is the 177, so there is even some room for more weight when you go up to the 184. This ski is now, 2 or 3 years in its current form?
Third year. It feels like just yesterday that they released the Mindbender skis. I don't know what happened over the last 3 years.
Right. It's a blur. But the same construction methods follow through with this. So we have Titanal Y-beam, metal to the edges in the front with a gap in the middle, full width underfoot, and that goes along with their Powerwall sidewall, so that red section there. It's just a beefier, stiffer sidewall material. Really adds to the torsional stiffness. And then that Y-beam goes into the central portion of the ski and the tail, leaving these outside edges unencumbered by that metal. So it's an interesting way that they build these skis. We got maple and aspen in the wood core, and that really gives it its power. So one of the smoothest, dampest skis that I think we've seen so far from an on-trail, on-piste carving perspective.
Yeah, I think these three, there's some similarities between those, but yeah, absolutely.
All three of these, very quiet. There's not a lot of chatter going on in any of these models. The fact that this metal extends beyond where the rocker profile starts kind of tells you a lot about what they're going for, which is not playfulness, whereas some of these other skis have really focused on being playful and smeary. This one is definitely more focused on being carving and more businesslike and having that precise edge grip in the front and underfoot. The playfulness is found more in the tail, and even then, the weight and the stiffness of the ski kind of take it out of that playful threshold.
It's a pretty hefty ski.
It is. You can make quick turns on it. You do have to work a little bit for it because this stuff does like to hook up pretty quick.
Yeah, I was just editing some footage of you on that ski just yesterday or the day before, and you were making some very, very quick turns on that ski, which reminded me that it's not a Bonafide.
Right.
that it was good for me to have that reminder, and it makes sense again, like what you were saying about these skis, like metal, but they're over here on the left side of the wall, so there is some compliance to it. You're right that like playfulness might not be the right word, but allowance for different turn shapes.
Yeah, and certainly a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
You know, with that flex, we're seeing a little bit more. I mean, it's not a stiff brick. You know, it does have liveliness to it.
Right,
so you
exactly.
do get that energy out of it, even with that metal in the shovel here. But just, I would say, one of the more directional on-trail carving skis that we've seen so far, and just has that kind of Cadillac quality to it, just a smooth kind of upscale feel to it.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that you can't access those short turns as well.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't just jump in the woods on a snowy day on these and expect to have as good a time as a bent Chetler 100.
But you'd still have a good time.
Still have a great time. But yeah, overall, this is definitely one of the smoother skis that we've seen. And you know, as with kind of these other ones that have multiple widths, like the Declivity, you know, these increase in the rocker as well from the 90 to the 99 to the 108 Ti. So you're getting that width appropriate rocker and taper shape as you move up or down within that line.
Yeah. Another ski that feels like a great choice if you're just going to have one pair of skis.
Yeah.
Especially for maybe like a Western skier. I could see that being great for somebody who lives in like Whistler or Mammoth.
Yeah.
Who they just want one ski, make it simple, can handle anything you're going to throw at it.
Yeah. And, you know, we could say that about a lot of these for sure, and we haven't really touched on yet about, you know, is this going to be the only ski that you own? And in most cases, I would say any of these most certainly could be.
Could be, yeah.
You know, there are some that you would say, well, you might want something else to help you out along your way. But if someone said, no, I ski this Mantra 102 every day here at Stowe, I'd be like, great,
yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need a whole lot else. You know, that something like the bent Chetler 100, you know, I find myself wanting more in a carving, like on a boilerplate day that we see here, you know, not the best choice, especially versus something like a Mantra 102.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that you're going to be lost out there.
No, certainly not. Next ski, we got the Stance 102 from Salomon. I really like how you were just talking about, you know, whether you would want a ski to have it be your only ski or not. And my eyes went to this ski as maybe you'd want something else too. Because this ski is pretty unique. I really like it. It might be my favorite ski in the Stance line. I like the way that Salomon has taken this ski and combined the strong feel, the stability and vibration damping of metal, but they also gave it a very playful shape.
Yeah.
So it's a really unique combination, and it's pretty cool. Still over 2,000 grams in this ski, so 2,050 grams. So pretty hefty ski, and this is only, what, the 176?
Yeah.
So one of the heavier skis that we've looked at so far. Metal twin frame construction in these skis, so 2 sheets of metal. They remove basically a window of metal in the tip as well as the tail, or really not even the tip, just kind of the forebody section of the ski and right behind your binding. So that takes a little bit of weight out, but I think it's important to remember a little bit of weight because it's still a pretty hefty ski. They do fill those windows with Salomon's CFX fiber, boosts energy a little bit while also giving the ski really good vibration damping. This thing's very, very smooth, very, very quiet, as you might guess from a ski that weighs that much. But where things get really interesting, I guess the orange base is interesting.
I love the orange bases.
That's where things get interesting. But no, what I was going to say is where things get interesting is the rocker profile of this ski. So when they developed it, it was before they redesigned this QST 98 to be the QST 98, and previously the QST 106 was more rocker than the 98.
Yeah.
That's no longer true, which is kind of counterintuitive when you just think about widths. But essentially this ski shares the same rocker profile with the QST 106. So when it came out, it was really cool to kind of get this ski with long tip and tail rockers still, but with a strong build. It was really easy for us to want to compare this ski to the Mantra 102 when it came out. Just looking at the similarities in the construction, you know, there's a little bit more metal in these skis, but the theme is the same. You know, they're focusing the metal along the edges of the ski, taking some away from the middle. This ski gets more smeariness to it. So a really good blend for somebody that likes to ski fast and aggressively, but you want something that's going to be fun and relatively loose in soft snow. It's never going to feel particularly quick or particularly agile just because of the weight. You know, that's a characteristic that's more for this QST 98. But it'll allow you to release the tail edge no problem. So I think about it as like a powerful, aggressive skier who lives out west, you know, likes to ski really fast, but also wants something that's fun in soft snow. And I think the Stance 102 is just a fantastic choice for that skier. Despite strong build, really heavy, or not really heavy, but pretty hefty ski, you know, on the heavier side of the spectrum, it's not like just jarringly stiff of a flex pattern. There are certainly stiffer skis that we're going to look at, but pretty stable, strong ski for sure.
Not a tipper and ripper in terms of a GS turn shape.
No.
That's the one thing that stands out for me with this. This 176 generates a 23-meter turn radius.
Big.
It's long, it's straight, it's fast.
Yeah, it's that I think that's like kind of what I was trying to get at with like the Western skier who likes to ski really fast is like I always describe it as straight sideways. Straight sideways, straight sideways, straight sideways. Like that's what this ski is really good at. Like you just bomb like 50 miles an hour down an open face, and then like just do a big like push slashy smear turn, dump like 30 miles an hour of speed. That's what it's really good at.
It's a really interesting combination of construction shape profile, and I think that goes really well with what you said, that this might not be the best choice on the wall for one ski. Because it is kind of has this specific combination of ingredients. That really nothing else has. So it's interesting to see, and you know, I like a lot of things about this ski for sure. And it's just interesting to have, you know, when I got on the bigger size this past year, you know, the 190. So that's 24 meters radius in the 190. You know, you like, and we were doing a photo shoot, so you have to end up in a carved turn. Like, well, I really just have to go straight until I make one turn. So straight sideways to get the shot, and hopefully you get the bases up in the air and looks good on the camera. But really fun overall ski.
I love skiing that ski.
And kind of an interesting difference between, you know, the Stance 102 and the Stance 96. More different than some other skis that have, you know, Stormrider 102 versus 95.
Or M6 Mantra to Mantra 102.
There's more difference, I think, between the way this ski feels and the 96.
100%.
Than some of these other.
Or Enforcer 100 to Enforcer 94. I think that's an important thing to point out for sure.
Now we got a DPS. This is a Pagoda Piste 100 C2.
And kind of interesting just in general how, you know, we're moving from softest to stiffest here. These next two skis are like, they're lighter than some of the skis that we've looked at. Even though they're stiffer, which is a theme that carries through a couple other skis over there too.
And we didn't have the regular Pagoda, the 100 RP to show, but certainly wanted to mention it as a counterpart to this ski.
Absolutely,
and just briefly, Pagoda has a softer wood core and then the RP shaping, so it has a 15-meter turn radius versus this C2, which has a 19-meter shape. And then just a little bit more of a rockered profile to help accommodate that turn radius. So
yeah, we have a full review of that Pagoda 100 if you're interested. we also had the Pagoda 90 RP in the 90 comparison.
Yeah.
So very similar conversation there if you're interested in how that would kind of fall into the mix.
And these Pagoda Pistes, instead of having that softer wood core, they are just aspen and ash. And then they have DPS's 2 full sheets of carbon. So carbon instead of metal, that's going to keep this ski under 2,000 grams, hovering right around 1,900 on the scale here. But with that carbon, we are seeing that increase of stiffness. This is kind of that first, I think, first full carbon laminate. Probably one of the until we get to the
core.
To the core, this is the first one that relies on carbon to get that strength and power and energy. So you're getting that quality out of the carbon material. It works really well, and it works for a long time. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't break down. So that's one of the ways that we're justifying that north of $1,000 price range. But with this C2 shaping, we're seeing that good positive camber underfoot. Not nearly as much tip rocker as we see in the RP. Certainly more of that on-trail oriented ski. And then, slight to minimal tail rocker. Not really going to be the best floater on this group. Definitely more on-trail carving oriented. But the lightweight does help it stay afloat. So if you're going to use this thing off-trail, works really well. And then just a little bit of that early taper here in the tail helps you release the turn. With a ski that has like the stiffness of this carbon in the tail, if it doesn't have that taper, it's really going to be kind of abusive or too grabby. So the fact that they build in this taper here counteracts the stiffness of the tail, and that's by design and ultimately necessary to the the enjoyment of the ski. I would put this on my list of high edge angle skis.
Sure, yeah.
I found that this didn't have much of a limit when you got it up on edge. You could really keep pushing this thing, and it would hold up. I think once you activate and flex that carbon and get it moving at speed, it really makes it takes the performance of this to another level.
Yeah. Relatively light.
Yep.
Relatively stiff. So we've had that conversation plenty of times before. What happens when a ski is relatively light and relatively stiff? It becomes pretty darn responsive.
Yeah.
So where my mind goes when I think about these skis is, again, I can't remember what ski it was that we talked about, maybe the ZX, but really good for somebody with really good technique.
Yeah.
You make like deliberate movements. You are skiing purposefully, which like sounds silly because you should probably always ski purposefully. But some people like going back to this ski. It's a perfect like contrast to that ski where that Stance 102, like you might be a little bit out of control. That kind of straight sideways skiing, like you're kind of just throwing the skis all over the place and slashing turns. This is for somebody who's kind of staying more in control.
Yeah.
Maybe not skiing with such reckless abandonment, and just a really good ski for a technical kind of. I always want to say traditional, and I feel like people might perceive that as like a negative thing.
Yeah,
but,
where's the fun in that?
Right. But no, I think it's really good for somebody who's making proper pole plants, making like correct movements on their skis, because it's so responsive. You start doing bad things on that ski. If you ski it with bad technique, it's going to let you know because it's so responsive.
Yep.
So, something to consider. Next ski is the Atomic Maverick 100. Really interesting. If we could include more skis up here, I would have put the Backland 100 up here too, because I think it's just kind of interesting that Atomic makes 3 skis that are all 100 millimeter underfoot, and they all actually have pretty similar shapes.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before, and it comes up in comments quite a bit too. People choosing between those 3 skis. I've certainly answered that question a handful of times. There's 2 sheets of metal in this Maverick.
Yep.
Which is really impressive considering the weight comes in at just over 1,700 grams. 1,730 grams, we'll say, is
Right.
what our scale is reading
We're
right now.
back below 2,000 grams for
Exactly,
the atomics. Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, very comparable weight to the Ben Chetler,
Yep.
but you get 2 sheets of metal in here. They call it their Omatic core. The wood is a little bit lighter in these skis, so you might be sitting at home thinking like, well, what the heck, Jeff? Like, how can they make it lighter if there's also 2 sheets of metal? And that's where they're lightening up the core. Pretty darn thin profile to this ski as well. So we looked at the shape of the Ben Chetler. There are a lot of similarities between the shape of that ski and the shape of the Maverick. Similar tip rocker. We get Horizon Tech up here in the tip. A little bit less tail rocker. So that's kind of where, or at least less splay in the tail. So that's kind of where the differences are starting, and there's no Horizon Tech in this ski either. So what that means is you're going to get just stronger grip out of the tail of this ski. We tested these quite a bit this past season.
Yeah, we spent a good amount of time on these.
Yeah, and it's one of those skis that's just very, very well rounded.
Yeah.
Certainly one of those skis that if you were only going to own one pair of skis and you chose this, you made a really good decision. They carve really well. You know, again, it's over there on the right side of the wall. It's sitting right next to an MX98. So that means it's pretty stiff. You know, it is a strong ski that you can push against it. I had a blast pushing this ski, or not pushing this ski to its limit, trying to find its limit and failing.
Yep.
Which is good. You know, you don't necessarily want to find a ski's limit, but you know, on the other hand, 1,730 grams, so it's pretty darn easy to throw around.
Yeah.
Horizon Tech up there in the tip, so you get good soft snow performance. I certainly think it's fair to say that it's not as much fun in powder as the Ben Chetler, but it's still really good.
Yeah, and we kind of joked when we first got on it. We said, well, why didn't they just call it the Ben Chetler TI?
Right.
You know, like, you know, it's just definitely a marketing thing that we just said, well, this is just like a Ben Chetler or a Backland, but with metal in it.
Yeah,
and it is.
And I think that's a good way to think about it. It's the strongest out of those 3 skis.
And, you know, we got this in pretty much every condition and terrain imaginable that we have here. Trees, bumps, groomers. We had some snow days. You know, we really put this thing through its paces and didn't find a whole lot of weaknesses. You know,
No, it's just very well rounded.
And a big upgrade over the outgoing Vantage series of skis, I think.
Absolutely.
They keep
just fundamentally better.
Yeah, and they keep like the lightweight and the stiff aspect that the Vantage had, but they just do it in more of a compliant and user-friendly way.
More fun. Yeah, that Vantage at times was kind of punishing.
Yeah. Yeah, this is more
going back
accessible.
to like talking about being light and stiff. Like the Vantages were extremely responsive, almost to a fault at times. Because if you made any mistake, the ski was like, "Okay, you're falling now." Where it's similar and it has that responsiveness and that energy, but way more compliant, way more forgiving.
And I'll say a similar thing about this tail as I did the DPS. It is stiffer in the tail than the tips, I would say. Definitely a little bit more flexy up front. They do have this early taper built into the tail, so you don't have to have that full stiffness to the very end of a non-tapered. When we look at this MX98 in the tail shape, we'll see the stark difference. But having this be a little bit narrower, a little more playful, with a bit of that rocker built in, allows them to keep the overall stiffness and performance of the ski intact without having it be too abusive on the back end. But you know, just found this thing to be a sharp, crisp, precise performer in a variety of conditions and terrain.
Yeah, great ski. I mean, I think it's very fair to say that Atomic did a great job developing these new Maverick skis. It feels like they listened to consumers about the Vantage skis and basically addressed every potential issue with those Vantage skis and did it very successfully.
Yeah, very good stuff. Next up, we got this Kastle MX98. This is another one of those top tier performing skis here. Justifies the price through its precision and quality, similar to that Stockli.
Yeah.
We're going to see it in the weight come through as well. 2104 on the scale, it looks like. This is the 178. We're seeing a good stiff flex over most of this ski, although also similar to the Stockli. And interestingly enough, these two premium model brands
Very
are
similar.
a little bit more forgiving in the shovel than they are in the mid body and then through the tail.
Yeah, and the similarity is just in the shape too. You know, with that kind of squared off finish. It's a very similar design.
But that said, I'm thinking this Kastle is certainly more of a carving, high-speed oriented ski at the top end.
Yep.
Doesn't quite have that lower end range that the Stockli has. Definitely has that speed minimum, kind of similar to what we'll see in the Bonafide 97. But that Holotech in the tip does allow you to access the side cut of the ski and the entry point to the turn. And, you know, we're going to see kind of, I would say, the least amount of rocker maybe
It might be.
on this wall here.
Might be.
You know, ever so slight. I mean, we're really not seeing much in the tip here at all. And then, you know, pretty flat camber as well. Another similarity to that Stockli. And then just enough in the tail to make this ski a little bit more accessible for non-World Cup level.
Just not
athlete.
100% punishing.
Yeah, not 100%. 98%. That's why they call it this. And then very, you know, very non-tapered as well. So that widest part is at the very front.
Another similarity to the Stockli.
Yep. And then same at the back. We kind of saw that tail shape already, with that nice metal block at the end, signifying both quality and toughness. So just one of those skis that you're going to want to stand on and just rail GS carved turns at high speeds on the groomers, through crud, through mank, through anything really. This is one of those high performing skis that really does all of that. You know, if you want this to make quick turns, you're going to have to put in the work. This 178 here, 20.9 meter turn radius, so it does fall more into the turn shape of the stance. But yeah, to get from edge to edge in quick and subsequent turns, you're going to have to do the work. It's not going to do it for you, despite what the price tag may indicate. It is not a self-skiing ski. You do have to put in the input. If you're willing and able and have that good balance point and that strong technique, you're going to see the benefits of this in the precision and quality of the turns. So, you know, with the wood core here, we get tighter blocks, tighter stringers versus that ZX of poplar and beech. 2 full sheets of metal and 2 sheets of fiberglass. So it does have that upper end construction that's really going to make it hold an edge and just blow through whatever's in front of you. So yeah, I mean, quality abounds with this Kastle.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically built like a wide race ski.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about a lot of skis that are strong, and we will continue to talk about a lot of skis that are strong. But this really, if you like cut it in half and then cut a race ski in half, that's like basically the same thing inside, which kind of speaks to its performance. I was kind of chuckling to myself as you were talking because it's almost got some similarities to the blend, and not in the way that you would think.
Yeah.
Just in that there's a pretty specific application for it. You know, like you were saying, it's not a particularly well-rounded ski. It doesn't have a huge, broad appeal, just like the blend. Like it's not a particularly versatile ski, and then there's a specific type of skier that should be choosing it. I think there's a specific type of skier that should be choosing this.
Yeah.
Strong skier, values precision, doesn't care about smeariness or the loose feeling of a ski. They just want strength and precision.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that they make the FX96 Ti as well to kind of, you know, be the foil for this ski within the same shape range.
Right, and like that ski is more versatile.
Yeah.
You know, that FX ski you're getting, it's more forgiving, it's a little bit more maneuverable, stuff like that.
And it's interesting that Kastle makes this, that and that FX96, kind of three very different skis, all within 4 millimeters of each other.
Yeah, exactly. Next ski up is the popular Enforcer 100. This ski gets a lot of attention. You see it out on the hill a lot. It's a very good ski. You know, we've talked about the Enforcer 100 a lot. Maybe we've talked about Enforcers more than any other category of ski over the past 5 years. I think that might be fair to say. 2,170 grams in this ski, so pretty beefy construction, pretty heavy ski, but what's cool about it is the way that Nordica shapes their skis is you're getting more compliance, more versatility out of it than, say, something like the MX98, and a little bit more user friendliness even than, say, like a Bonafide 97. 2 sheets of metal in this ski. We get carbon, we get true tip technology, so that the wood core extends like further into the tip. They basically replaced ABS material. This is we've had this new Enforcer for 2 years now?
Yeah, 2 years.
So newest edition of the Enforcer, definitely retains everything that was good about it, just makes it that much better.
Yep.
We talked about, or I mentioned shape, and shape is really important to these skis. So camber underfoot, rocker tip. There's not as much rocker in the tail, but there is some back here. You know, kind of one of those things that doesn't have a ton of splay, but in length, it's fairly substantial. What's really important about these skis is how the rocker and the taper works together. So the widest point of the ski is basically right there. The rocker starts right there. So it's pretty cool how this ski is designed. It's intended, and we've discussed this plenty of times before, is if you're skiing a flatter ski, you benefit from that rocker. So you get some nice maneuverability, you can release the tip and tail edge. The further you tip the ski on edge, the longer the effective edge is. So you're actually engaging more of the tip. So the harder you ski it, the stronger it feels, which is a great characteristic for a ski. You know, it makes a lot of sense. I'm going back to when we were over here on the wall, and you were kind of talking like you want to ski with metal, but you want it to be a little bit more forgiving. I think there's something similar about the Enforcer. You know, it is heavy. It is one of the stiffer skis up here, you know, over there on the right side of the wall. But this 179 has a 17.3 meter turn radius. So in this ski, I think some of that forgiveness is coming from the turn radius. Although it's stiff, although there's 2 sheets of metal in here, it's a strong, heavy ski. It comes across the fall line really easily. Every time I get on an Enforcer 100, I like physically stop somewhere on the trail and say something like, I just got a little bit better at skiing. Because it really is one of those skis that makes you feel like a better skier. It's strong, it's damp, it's powerful, but it's also responsive, it's pretty agile, it's pretty quick. It's just it's an extremely well-rounded ski, and every time I ski it, it kind of reconfirms why it has become so popular. It's just a great ski.
Yeah, and I'll add flotation to your little praise there.
Yeah, you've had some powder days on this ski where I've been on like an Enforcer 104 and you're on an Enforcer 100.
Yep, and it's not, you know, that longer rocker in the tip does help. I mean, I've been in like 2 feet of snow on this ski and kind of wonder to myself why anyone needs a wider ski than this, especially given how well it performs in the rest of the mountain. Another interesting thing, 2,100 plus grams, there's 2 bigger sizes than this as well. So in that 191, you know, that thing is going to be a very heavy ski. I own one, and my favorite terrain to use it in is wider trails with some snow. And whether that snow is fresh or broken or chopped or whatever, I don't care. It doesn't matter. This thing plows through them. Has the Cadillac factor of the K2. just a little bit more round of a turn shape, and it does feel heavy on your feet, like when you're going up the chairlift.
But it doesn't ski heavy.
It doesn't ski heavy, and that's,
that's
one of the
really
most
important.
impressive things. But yeah, great to see them kind of continue on with that success.
Yep, big favorite among our staff.
Yep.
We were talking about it with Brad yesterday. Brad's had that ski in his quiver for a long time, and he's just fine. I think he's had it for four years.
Yeah, he's ready for another
And
one.
he's just fine. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna get another Enforcer
Yep.
100. And I think there's a lot of skiers out there that they've found their ski in the Enforcer 100 or the 94 or the 88. A lot of people have gravitated to those skis.
Yep. And this is a good kind of segue to this comparison.
Yep.
We see a lot of back and forth between people thinking about a Mantra and an Enforcer. I don't think that the 102 quite gets the credit that it deserves.
Yeah, this ski doesn't seem to. It certainly doesn't have the popularity of the M6 Mantra.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like we get more questions about the Katana
Right.
than the Mantra 102.
Yeah.
So it's like people are mentally skipping over a ski
Yeah.
in Volkl's line.
And I was lamenting to you yesterday that I wish that they were all just called Mantra and then
Mantras.
the width. So a Mantra 88 would be a Kendo, or a Mantra 108 would be the Katana, but that's just me. 121.60 grams here, and the 177 again we see
Pretty comparable to that Enforcer.
Yep, and we see two more, a 184 and a 191 in this ski. So we do see that higher end of weight coming in. This has the Titanal frame into it, so full sheet of metal on the bottom, and then this frame build on top. We get Volkl's multi-layer wood core to go along with it. So we do see that metal underfoot, and then connecting back into the frame at the end. They're not connected, which is kind of the cool part. That allows this, if they were connected, this ski might be further down on our stiffness wall.
It might be the end.
Yeah, but since it's disconnected, it allows the ski to flex more evenly with the terrain and with your input. So it's a really good way to think about how this Titanal frame works on any of these Volkl skis.
Yeah.
Specifically with this one, really kind of gives it that extra power and boost that goes along with the added width. Kind of when I first got on these, I was expecting something different. I wasn't expecting it to come around as quickly and nicely as it did. I was kind of anticipating the old plankier Mantra.
19 meters underfoot.
Yeah.
So if you weight it right and you ski it well, it'll come across.
Yeah, this has that 3D radius side cut, so you can vary up that turn shape. I kind of equate it can be like this, but it can also be like, I don't know, maybe that QST 98 in terms of its ability to make a shorter turn. So that technology does kind of add up with this 102. A lot of people that skied that older version of the Mantra, that 198 or 100,
have preferred this
over the M6, which has really kind of solidified itself as more of the on-piste, that wider
Yeah, I mean, this
carver.
is closer in width than the outgoing, like the reverse camber Mantra that was 100 underfoot. And I think this has comparable soft snow performance to that ski, where the new M6, like you were just saying, is more like 70-30 on trail, off trail, instead of like 50-50 on trail, off trail.
Yeah, this thing's going to plow through crud, chop, anything like that. Very similar to that Enforcer in terms of its lack of caring as to the snow conditions. I would say with appropriate rocker, there's nothing that stands out about it in the tips and in the tails. More in the directional side of the spectrum, but not true on trail, similar to this MX98. Definitely has kind of that Mantra versatility, that all mountain feel built in.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, if you said that this is your only ski and you ski here in Vermont, then wonderful. There's nothing else that you would really need, especially given the firm snow performance of this ski. So, I think that a lot of people will kind of, if you try it, you're going to see what the fuss is all about, for sure.
Yep. I think it's a little bit harder to ski than the Enforcer.
Yep.
I think that's fair to say. You know, like similar to how we were talking about the Stockli compared to the Kastle, and this has a little bit more of a broad appeal.
Yep.
Like I would hesitate to put, I'm thinking like upper level intermediate, I would hesitate to put that skier on the Mantra 102, and I would feel a little bit better about putting that skier on an Enforcer.
Yeah, I think that this has that more free ride influence that is a little bit more approachable.
Yeah, and just
skiers.
the shorter radius throughout, I
Yeah.
think helps too.
Yep.
Next ski is the Ranger 99 Ti from Fischer. This is probably the shortest ski we have up here at 174 centimeters. Just happened to be the only length that has showed up from Fischer thus far. This ski is the same as it's been for a while now. Just a new cosmetic for 2022 here. Just under 1,800 grams. So we've dropped about 350 grams from the past two skis that we've looked at, but we're on the right side of them, which means we're on the stiffer flex pattern. So this thing is pretty darn powerful. And again, what comes to mind for me when you think about a ski that's light but stiff is responsiveness. And in this ski in particular, the word that comes to mind for me is precision. Mm-hmm. This carbon nose in Fischer's construction is incredibly precise. You get so much responsiveness out of this tip to the point where when you tip this ski on edge, it hooks up right there and it just goes. It's super, super fun to ski. Very, very strong carving ski. But because it's on the lighter side, you know, it's not quite as fatiguing, I think is fair to say. At least it's lighter on your feet on the chairlift, which there's something to that. Fischer's shape, you know, it kind of carries through most of their Ranger skis. Pretty similar actually to what we just saw in the Enforcer. So fairly long tip rocker up here. Some nice kind of smooth early taper, so very similar characteristics. The further you tip it on edge, you're going to link up this portion of the ski more and more. And then less tail rocker back here than tip rocker. Not much splay, decent length. And I think this ski is impressively stiff through the tail. Mm-hmm. That's really something that you feel when you ski these skis. I've always really enjoyed skiing these. I think they're very strong, powerful skis because they're on the lighter side of the spectrum. The swing weight is a little lighter, so I find them easier to throw around in moguls and trees and stuff like that. They may not be as damp as the two skis we just looked at, or really you could include the MX too, the three skis that we just looked at, but just as stable, just feels a little different. I got a chance to go out to Mount Hood this past summer, and we were testing some Fischer skis, and this is one of the skis that we were kind of using as sort of a benchmark. Mm-hmm. And we had some really good skiers with us, one of which was Forrest Peterson, who is recently retired from the U.S. ski team, extremely strong skier. And it was a blast watching her just rip turns on this ski. Like someone with a true high-end race background, what they can do on this ski is really impressive. But then like the other side of the spectrum is they put a skin clip attachment point on this ski. So it's light enough to use as an alpine touring ski.
Where powder, sure.
Right, where the three skis we just looked at, I personally would not want to tour on them. Right. So if you want a strong, stiff ski, but you want something that you can get a little bit more versatility out of, I think the Ranger 99 is an awesome choice.
Yeah.
And this ski also feels like it gets overlooked because of the success of the Ranger 102.
Sure.
That ski has really taken off. The pink graphic helped. But yeah, this ski is, to me, it's just as good. I mean, it's obviously different, but it's just as good of a ski.
I think the last time I was on this was probably one of the worst ski days imaginable. Just awful conditions.
And it probably did great.
And it did great.
And
I even like punished myself and went through some icy moguls, and you know, it's very confidence inspiring because it's light. You're not going to miss a turn.
Right.
Whereas, you know, you would hope you not to miss a turn on this, but it's more likely that you won't quite get it around the same way. this one gave me the confidence to know that I'm going to make that turn.
Yeah, because it's lighter, it's easier to put
Yeah.
it where you want it.
Yep.
But then it's just as supportive and strong.
Yeah, real handy ski for around here for sure. I think this one surprised us a little bit, that it's this far down on the wall. This is the Dynastar M-Pro 99. This thing came out last year. I got to spend a good amount of time on it, just kind of in December. We had a nice December. So I got to really kind of put this thing through its paces, had a nice like maybe 4-day run on it, which is, you know, longer than we average test a ski. So I got to ski it in bumps and trees and woods and groomers and all sorts of stuff. And one of the more impressed I've been with a new offering, you know, this replaces the outgoing Legend series,
Yep.
sorry. So, you know, kind of had something to stand on, but is quite a bit different of a feel. This uses the same hybrid core as the M-Free 99, but they add their Titanal rocket.
Titanal rocket frame.
Rocket or space, I can never figure it out. But
It's shaped like a rocket.
yeah, it is shaped like a rocket. I should figure that out.
It's shaped like the Apollo rockets.
But yeah, poplar wood through the middle, PU on the outsides. That extends further in than in other skis that use that polyurethane material. And then this tapered and shaped metal laminate. So thin at the middle in the front, extending to full width underfoot, and then in the tail, kind of staying wide.
Yeah.
It does end pretty much where the rocker profile starts. So that's kind of an interesting thing about the tail of the ski, is that it's rockered and free of metal. So at the very end of the ski, at least, does add to the playfulness.
And we've pointed this out before, but I always think it's fun.
Yeah.
Is the placement of metal is essentially the opposite of
Right.
the K2 Mindbenders, where these are wider in the tip than through the middle in the tail. This is through the middle in the tip,
Yep.
wider in the tail.
Right. And that metal extends beyond the rocker in the shovel, whereas this most
not.
certainly does not.
Yeah.
So we do see a fair amount of rocker in this ski. Did we get a weight on this? I don't think I said so. 19, 20. So just south of 2,000 grams. This is the 178. And we do get a fair amount of rocker here. Pretty similar to the playfulness that we see in the M-Free. Good, solid, positive camber underfoot here. And then in that tip, you know, the rocker starts here. The metal starts here. So we do get a little bit of rocker profile that is not metallic, leading to that nice initiation phase of the turn. And then the metal ends here, rocker starts here in the tail. Pretty low, but I think that's by design. Kind of gives it a more on-trail personality. And then, yeah, it's stiff.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how they made this thing so stiff. We were definitely you know, guessing that this ski would.
Yeah, when we
would
first
be,
set up the wall, we had it over here somewhere.
Yeah.
And it just kept going that way.
Yep, yeah, we kept flexing and kept doing our non-scientific evaluations of these skis, and this one just kept moving over. Especially in the tail, I think we're seeing a little bit different of a flex in the tail. And
Yeah,
similar.
definitely.
Similar to this Atomic, where the tail is stiff, they do incorporate a little bit of that early taper into it, just to soften the blow a little bit when you're, you know, in a carved turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally just a great all-mountain ski. This is one of those ones that I think falls into the one ski quiver category for sure.
Yeah, and as kind of chuckling to myself again, you were talking about how you had that Ranger 99 on like a terrible snow day.
Yep.
I had these on a terrible snow day. I was out there with Harrison, and we came down the nosedive switchbacks, and there were like 3 ski patrollers at, like before the rest of nosedive, and I assumed they were closing it off just by like how bad it looked. And I was even like, that's not groomed, right? Because it just looked terrible, like
Yeah.
refrozen, just bumpy, just terrible. And they were like, "Oh no, it's groomed, it's open." And I was kind of like, "All right, like we'll see what it can do." And I was just so impressed by this ski. It doesn't like it worked really well in that situation. and this is something we've talked about before. It doesn't pull you into a turn. It lets you do what you want to do. We've used the phrase "a real skier's ski," and I think that's true for this thing. And I was just very impressed by, tip it on edge, kind of drop my hip towards the snow, and it didn't matter that I was skiing like bumpy concrete.
Yeah.
The ski it stayed composed, it tracked well, it went where I wanted it to, where I told it to. And yeah, just very impressive.
Yeah, and a similar long turner to this Stance 102.
Yeah, it loves just long arcs.
This is a 20-meter radius, and
Yeah.
it's shorter, 178. I think the 186 is like a 22 or a 23-meter arc, so it's...
And again, when you think about that turn radius, then with this tip shape, it's the tip's not helping you complete your turn. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool.
I looking at this wall now, I think this is a very similar shape to that ZX 108.
Yeah, certainly some similarities.
I'm sorry, 100, just with that stiffer flex and more, more stability.
Yep.
So that's an interesting shape comparison.
Next ski, we have the Bonafide 97. I kind of went back and forth on this ski. We're going to do a mid-90 comparison, which will have skis like the M6 Mantra. This ski could go in that comparison too. In fact, who knows, maybe we'll include it again. But I thought it was good to put in this comparison too, because it does have some similarities to some of these skis. 2,280 grams. So we're up there now. Not surprisingly, because there is 2.5 sheets of metal in this ski. And we talked about this on another comparison. I can't remember which one, but I always like when you can see the metal.
Yeah.
And boy, can you see it in this ski. Look right underfoot, and there you go. There's your 3 sheets of metal. This ski, Bonafide in general, in my opinion, has always been like the pinnacle of power and stability in this category, and I think it still is. Blizzard did change this ski. They changed it for last year. They put true blend wood core in it. So basically they're manipulating the flex pattern in different portions of the ski and for different lengths of the ski. So they're placing denser wood underfoot. That dense wood then kind of like dissipates as it reaches the tip. So you get maybe one strip that goes to there, some shorter ones that go to there. So the tips and the tails of the Bonafide are now designed to be slightly more compliant than the rest of the ski. I think that's really helped increase its versatility. It's given it a touch of forgiveness, but this thing is still just unbelievably strong.
Yeah.
Going back to my weird idea of competitions, if somebody said, we're going to go out and ski tomorrow, and whoever skis the fastest gets $10,000, I would take this. I trust this ski with my life.
Yep.
Sometimes when you're skiing 50, 60 miles an hour, if you're not on a ski that you trust, you start glancing at the trees in the corner of your eyes, I don't want to go over there, this thing better hold. I have never once in my life, skiing a Bonafide, worried about its edge grip or stability or power.
I worry about myself far more.
Sure.
I am more limited than this ski.
Sure, absolutely. Stiff flex pattern, like we were saying, it's a powerful ski, so you're not going to get a ton of rocker in this ski. Very low splay in the tip. The rocker does start about there, so that helps a little bit with turn initiation. And then in the tail, there's really not much rocker back there at all. Extremely low splay for what rocker is there. But having slight amounts of rocker, especially in the tip, really helps this ski. It gives it a touch of user friendliness when entering a turn.
Yeah, that's a relative turn for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like the previous ski. You really had to push on it, and you still have to push on this one too, but I think its turn entry is a little bit smoother and a little bit easier. You referenced this ski earlier in regards to a speed minimum, and I still think that's true. I do think maybe that speed minimum went down a little bit with the newer version compared to the previous version, but it's still a ski that prefers to ski fast.
Yeah, I think the maximum has stayed.
The maximum
Pretty
has
consistent.
stayed
That hasn't changed.
100% consistent. And then going all the way back here to the QST 98, we were saying that's a ski you should size up on. This, I think, is a ski you should size down on.
Yeah.
We tested it this past season. We had a few days on it, and I ultimately decided that 177.
That's enough.
That is plenty of ski for me. This is the 183, which in the previous version, I always chose the 180. That just felt like the length for me. Now with the new breakdown in lengths, I had to kind of re-identify what was right for me, and I think I skied the 183 first and was kind of like, whoa, and then skied the 177 and was like, oh yeah, I can control that, which some of the True Blend helps with that too. The 177 is going to be slightly softer than the 183, but unbelievable ski.
And I like the Brahma in the 183, but I like this in the 189.
You like to go long in the Bonafide?
I think that by having that softer wood
Sure.
in the very tips makes it better for the shape.
Yep.
For me.
Yeah, that makes
Whereas
sense.
that Brahma, I want it to be shorter,
a little
turnier. This one I want to go a little bit straighter on. It's still pretty turny. This is 18.5 meters
Right.
in the 183, so I think that's an interesting counterbalance to the power of it, is that it is a turny ski.
It's similar to how Nordica,
Yeah.
achieves that balance with the Enforcer.
Yeah.
I think this is more ski than the Enforcer,
Yeah.
but yeah, by not giving it a 22-meter turn radius, they're giving it a slightly easier feel.
Yeah, they're helping us out a little bit.
Just
at
a little
least.
bit, yeah. But yeah, just such a strong, powerful ski, which is obviously evident in its weight.
Now, I would say we would have guessed that this ski would have been at the end of the wall for stiffness. I didn't think it was going to be the end.
The end?
But it is.
Yeah, I might have guessed that it was the end.
Okay. I mean, this Core 99 is, you're right, I should have known. It's so stiff. And then we're dropping almost 400 grams.
Yeah.
1850 we're coming in. This is the 184.
Right.
So similar, I guess, 183, 184. 1800 and some 30-something grams. Light, stiff, Karuba wood, carbon, graphene. They dropped the Koroyd for this year.
Yep.
They've added lengths, so they never had a 184. So if you've been kind of wanting a core but don't want to ski or a 180 or a 189, you now get a 184. Also a 177, so it's no longer 171 to 180.
Yep.
So they tightened up the sizing, made the ski just a little bit more compliant.
A little smoother.
A little smoother, yeah. Definitely quieter.
Yep.
I don't think it's as pingy as the older version.
Yep.
But that's not to say that the outgoing was that there were issues with it in that regard. But the way that they use the carbon to stiffen the ski is pretty unique. And then keeping it light, they kind of have this integrated top sheet. There's not an additional laminate, so they save weight that way. But just overall, one of the more versatile cores.
Yeah, probably the most.
Yeah, I think it's I think that this shape works well with this build. Maybe more so for me than the 93 or the 105. I think the 105 certainly has more of that soft snow specificity to it. But I think that this 99 does make a lot of sense, and I would say that it is one of the better carving skis on this
great
wall.
carving ski.
While you might not be able to make the highest edge angle, I think it prefers the higher edge angles. It's not the best on kind of that flat and skiddy turns. You want to be able to access the full side cut here.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting.
Very interesting. I skied this thing, 5 days in a row?
Yeah.
We did a review of it, and I really wanted get to know its true personality. And I mean, admittedly, it took me a little bit because it is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it does feel different when you get something that's this light and this stiff. Carving came to me right away. You know, its ability to carve is intuitive, and it does it really well. Plenty to push against. In the trees, that's I think where it took me a little bit to get used to it. For some reason, I think in my mind, because it's light, I expected it to be like a little looser, but it's so responsive in the trees that it kind of goes back to, I don't even remember what ski we were talking about, but skiers with really good technique will benefit from this ski.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have good technique, don't buy this ski, because it will punish you.
Yeah.
If you get in the back seat in the trees, you're like gonna hit a tree.
Right.
But if you stay like forward, if you're engaged, if you're an active skier with good technique, you will love this thing. You know, there are a ton of benefits to it, but you do have to be a certain level skier, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, another interesting point about this, and we didn't mention it with the Ranger, but they are width specific to length, so they do change. The 177 is the reference length in the core models.
Yep.
So this one is actually 101 underfoot,
Yep.
and then I think the longer one is 102, but 177 is the 99 underfoot, and then the 170 I think would be 97.
Yeah, and the 177 happened to be the ski that I was testing.
Yeah.
That was the length that I went for me.
Yep. So keep that in mind in the buying process, because you can kind of interchange the widths of like the 99 and the 93 a little bit depending on your sizing. But like these other skis, you get more rocker profile with the 99. So if you are looking for that slightly more rockered tip shape.
Yeah, that's pretty pronounced in the cores.
Yeah.
You know, as you go up to 105, 111,
Yeah.
118, they get more and more rocker, and it's noticeable.
Yeah.
And it also when you get to 105, there's actually a break from 99 to 105 in flex. The 105 is a little softer. There is kind of a fundamental difference between those.
Yeah.
It might be subtle, but it is there, and it's intended to be there. Head would tell you that it's there.
And we've often kind of discussed, especially with the narrower enforcers, the similarity between
Shaping,
shapes overall. But I think it's more pronounced in the narrower than this new core, which has even more of that early taper.
Yeah, if anything, there's been a bit of a departure from enforcers and cores.
Yep.
Like if you were to go back 3 years to the previous experience 93 and the core 93, those two in particular were kind of the two that we were like, that's basically the same shape.
Right.
Like, do you want a heavy one or do you want a light one?
Right. Which is good for the skier, you know. It's good for
exactly.
whoever's looking for the stuff. So
Yeah.
Light and stiff on the core 99.
Yeah. And then finally we have one last honorable mention. Liberty's shipments have been a little bit delayed this year, but we've been trying to include them as much as we can because they do have some awesome skis right now. So this is the Evolv 100. This is the 2021 version, so I'm not even going to weigh it or flex it because there's a new ski that's different. The new ski, we've talked about this before. We actually had the ski in the mid 80 comparison, the Evolv 84, the actual new one. So these Evolvs now get VMT 3.0. So they are the only skis in this comparison, and some of the only skis, period, that use vertical strips of metal. So now we get 3 vertical strips of metal. In general, these things are just incredibly quiet.
Yes.
It's maybe the quietest ski on this wall just in terms of vibration damping and how it feels on your feet. You feel no vibrations through your body, through your feet whatsoever.
Yeah.
Very strong ski. You can push against it. It carves really well, but kind of similar to the Declivity. You know, these skis are different in their shape and in how they feel, but being an Armada and being a Liberty, they both feel like they have some of the brand's heritage worked into them. So although it's strong and stable and pretty powerful, this thing blasts through choppy snow, there's some forgiveness to it, some maneuverability to it as well.
Yeah.
Even though it is more of a flatter tail, for whatever reason, this feels easier to release the tail edge than some skis that reach the same level of stability and vibration damping.
And we originally wanted to include the Origin 101,
yeah,
which is a totally new ski. We do have a full review on that.
yeah, check that out for sure.
But this was just the only one, and I think we talked about doing a Liberty specific.
Yeah, we may end up
Review
doing a
those
Liberty
three.
comparison or some kind of Liberty brand overview just to include the skis that we don't physically have on hand just yet.
And I would end up putting that Origin probably in between the Salomon and the bent Chetler, maybe to the right of the.
I was gonna say here.
Yeah.
And it might even be here.
But just somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that ski was super fun. Yeah, definitely go check out that review. I had a blast testing that thing. That was another one that I spent quite a lot of days on through the spring, and it was like I didn't want to stop skiing.
It was a perfect
because it was just such a perfect spring ski. Just really good in the soft snow, and then in spring conditions sometimes you break through to like ice underneath.
Yep.
And that ski, it's got good edge grip, but it's super playful and snappy and a lot of fun. So it would have been great to have that ski up here. But it is awesome, and check out the review if you're interested in that. And yeah, that's it. We did it.
All right.
It's lunchtime. That's it. That's our 100 millimeter ski comparison. As always, let us know if you have any questions about any of these skis up here. If you've made it this far, some of you have been asking when women's comparisons are going to come out. We will probably do one more men's comparison, and then we will start working in some women's. We probably have, off the top of my head, I think like 4 more men's comparisons that we really want to get to, a couple that we might get to, but yeah, we'll work some women's stuff in there as well. So keep an eye out for more of these, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Bye.